Hey everyone, big news yesterday for real estate agents and realtors across the country. The Burnett Sitzer versus NAR case was yesterday, where NAR was found liable for doings that I don't really believe in, and definitely Brian and I have been talking about this, getting a lot of questions from a lot of agents. Some agents don't even know what's going on. Brian and I have been following this very closely over the last several months, and here we are. So Brian, why don't you go over a couple things that you picked up from it, and I'll go over a couple things that I think what it means for us real estate agents and what we have to do.
Yeah, well, you're right. This has been a case that's it's been a buzz in the real estate community for some time. Every conference that we go to, they bring this up that they're watching this. This is a case that they've been watching since 2019. It was just a case that started with, questioning the amount of commission that was being charged and the ability for mostly the buyers to negotiate the commission that their realtor would be being paid in a transaction. And then sellers jumped in on the side. Without getting into all the details, I think it was important that, if you heard about it or weren't familiar with it, that you be familiar with it now, because this one verdict that came out yesterday, which was not favorable to the real estate community, is going to have an impact. The question is when, on the way we transact and do business. So just some of the background is you need to start, if you haven't been aware of it, start being aware of it, researching it, listening it, and just know some of the ins and outs. But I know we're going to talk about, Willie, you got a few points of what happens after today, but just have a background on it that, there was a case that started, it was small. It turned into a class action lawsuit. Usually NAR negotiates settlements on these types of things. And this was one that there wasn't a settlement that was reached, and it went to a trial, and it went in front of a jury, and the jury found NAR and a couple other huge brokerages negligent, and it's going to have an impact. There's already pending lawsuits that were submitted right after this verdict, naming other real estate brokerages, so it could spin off. Good news, the hope is, I did talk with our president of our MLS last night, and being in touch with NAR, the understanding is that they intend to appeal it. And if they do appeal it, it's going to go in front of not another jury, but judges. And the judges will look at this differently than a jury would. So more to come on that without getting into all the nitty gritty and details. But this video is more about having an awareness of what's going on, and then how does it impact you and what to do as of now and going forward. So Willie, I know you had some thoughts on that. Is what do we do right now and going forward? And is, if the average realtor out there, how's this impact them?
Yeah, and going back to what you just said about appealing it, there is no maybe about it. They're definitely going to appeal this, and it's going to be years before this case is settled. But NAR has been around for 100 years, and they're a great organization. I'm proud to be a realtor and be proud to be a part of what NAR represents here in the United States. And I think all of us have to be, and we have to be aware of, this is where our dues go, and there's guidelines to protect the consumer. There's guidelines to protect the realtors to make sure that we're, full transparency out there. So three things, just came to mind when we were talking about this last night, Brian, is that, a question comes, what do we do now because of this case? And really the true answer is nothing, right? It's business as usual. Like nothing's changing today. It doesn't mean like we're not going to get paid commission today. Nothing's changing on our contracts. But you have to be aware of it. So I'm going to put a link down below just to give you some background information on what the case was, just to give you an idea, because number one thing is that you have to know what this is or what this is about, because it's all over the news. Any channel.
Sellers and buyers are going to be asking you.
Yeah, absolutely. Listings, sellers going to be asking you, buyers going to be asking you this. And if you just say, well, what are you talking about? That's not, that's not good. That's not a good thing.
Right.
And we're all professionals. We need to know about it. So number one, click the link below, get a little background on it, but you want to definitely know what the case is about and what it's referencing to. Number two, buyer representation, right? We talk about these buyer representation agreements all the time, buyer agency agreements, whatever you want to call them. And I know here at Miranda Real Estate Group, we always encourage, we always train on the importance of getting a buyer agreement. That needs to start happening, because it's going to really be the way of the future. And I think you're going to see that come out of this case. But, the good news is that the more you know about it, the more value you bring to the table, the more you communicate with that buyer, it's not going to be a problem for them to sign it. Okay. Once they know that. There is a class coming up, Brian. I know that Laura Burns mentioned that GCAR is going to be doing an ABR class that's happening like in the next week or two. I don't know when it's going to be. Stay tuned for more details on that. But I know as a new agent myself, that was one of the first designations that I got in the business, because I wanted to know how's the best way to represent these buyers, right? So number two, start getting a buyer agency contracts signed, and I would definitely take that ABR class. I think it's accredited buyer representation class. So you can get that designation, but also get the knowledge you need to better protect your buyers and also explain things to the sellers much better. So that's number two. Number three, you got to make sure that you're communicating to your sellers and your buyers that commissions are negotiable, right? They're pushing that we're making too much money and realtors are, price fixing, and, we're all like in collusion with each other.
Right.
And that's just simply not the case, right? Think about it. The way the MLS system is set up, it's to promote equity, transparency amongst the actual, contracts and negotiation deals that we do. And the market really drives the price, right? If we're in a seller's market versus a buyer's market, that's what really happens, right? And in a seller's market, this is where you see a lot of discount brokers. This is where you see a lot of, commissions get cut, where you're seeing, $50 or 1%. I mean, we've seen it all, right, Brian? All the different commissions, because we're in such a deep seller's market and inventory is low, that this happens. But as time changes, and I've seen this cycle now a couple times, when we moved into a buyer's market, when more inventory starts coming on the market, you're going to see that totally change. And you're going to see sellers that are going to want to, market their home the best way they can and attract buyers to their home. And if a buyer has to go and, pay a fee, or, there's some type of, price gouger, I don't want to say price gouger, but some type of thing that's going to, think about first-time home buyers is what I'm thinking about, right? Like first-time home buyers are not going to have enough money to pay for buyer agency, right? So if they don't do that, now they're not getting representation. What do? Did they go directly to the seller? So there's a problem there, right? So you're going to see that change in a seller's market and a buyer's market. But at the end of the day, the market really drives the pricing on this. And we have to make sure that we're able to know our value. We're be able to provide a great presentation for them so they know exactly what they're getting. And we'll be fine. It's not going to, everyone's like, oh my God, it's just going to kill the real estate business. Yeah. It's actually not. It's no different than what a lot of us are already doing now. And I think, Brian, here in the Capital District, with the contracts that we have, it is spelled out a lot more clear than some states and some other areas where I think we're going to be fine here. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And the fact that it's happening now in the fall and things are a little bit slower now, this is going to be old news here in the next 30, 60 days. But my point is that sellers, and it's out there in the news right now, you're going to get questioned on it. So make sure that you know what's going on.
Yeah. So the whole point of this video is to have an awareness what's going on. Don't be, blind to it. Yeah. And Willie, just to get an update too, something I wanted to mention too, your membership is in being part of GCAR and board. There's an annual membership meeting coming up on November 9th. Go to gcar.com to register for it. There's going to be a legal update by our legal counsel, meaning all of our legal counsels from GCAR. I believe it's Jim Brennan, but we'll see. But there's going to be an update on this case, and that's be an opportunity to ask someone with a little bit more insight and knowledge the detailed questions that you want about this case, and what to expect in the future. But we just wanted to get a message out here today, just to say, hey, this happened last night, and this is what it means as of today.
Yeah, it's a great point. November 9th, annual membership meeting. Just great information. I'll be actually giving out the award for the Realtor of the Year for this year as well. Yep. So there's other great things to be part of during that meeting. But you owe it to yourself as a professional and being a real estate agent here in the Capital District and being a realtor, that you need to make sure that you're at that meeting. So Brian, thank you so much for keeping tabs on what's going on. I know you and I have been kind of going back and forth. We really don't want to make a big stink about it until we actually saw what it came out to be. And after looking at it, it's not that scary, and we're going to be fine. And I really think that NAR is going to definitely come in and really show the judges now, like you said, Brian, show them exactly why this is a great thing for the consumer and not a bad thing. And
Right.
so we'll see what the outcome is here, hopefully in the next couple of years to get this behind us.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys, take care.
Everybody
Talk
on
to
the
you soon.
9th.